my late wife, was diagnosed with breast cancer in 2015. Early on, my wife Beverly decided she wanted to get her diet right, her sleep right, her exercise right, her supplementation right. We agreed that the phone was a problem. We knew it created radiation, but everybody told us it was fine, but we just didn't trust that it was good. I took that responsibility to go and try to find out what to do about the phone. It's up to us. We're all responsible for ourselves.
The EMF blocking paint. I've heard a lot of people spend a fortune painting their house with this paint. Our bodies are built to operate on information and communication from the earth and from the sky.
Welcome to the Quantum Lens podcast. I'm your host, Oksana Hansen. This is a space where science meets soul, a heart-centered, conscientious podcast designed to nurture your spiritual, emotional, and physical well-being through the wisdom of quantum biology, holistic healing, and a deep self-discovery. We'll explore what it truly means to live in alignment. If you're ready to open your heart, expand your mind, you're in the right place.
Ted McCullough, thank you so much and welcome to the Quantum Lens podcast.
Well, thank you, Oksana. I'm honored to be on your podcast.
I'm excited for this conversation because you are my EMF guy, and this is something that, I've been pretty open about is still not in my realm of expertise. Like, I know that this conversation is going to be very informational for my audience. And this is still stuff that I struggle with. And so I'm really excited that we're going to kind of educate people on non-native EMFs, right? So, but before we dive into that conversation, I'd love for you to just kind of introduce yourself and tell people your story.
Sure. Thank you. I'm Ted McCullough, and I owned a copier company, printer company, Hewlett-Packard Products, for 28 years. In the journey of that, my late wife, was diagnosed with breast cancer in 2015. So upon that realization and the beginning of the journey, my sister had just passed away from breast cancer a couple of years prior to my wife's diagnosis. And my sister's perspective, bless her heart, was, she was just suffering a lot and going through treatments and doing things. And she felt like she should reward herself after she had a treatment. So she'd get a donut or something like that. Well, that kind of opened our eyes that that's not the best approach. So early on, my wife Beverly decided she wanted to get her diet right, her sleep right, her exercise right, her supplementation right. And then we agreed that the phone was a problem, but we didn't really know the degree to what it was. We knew it created radiation, but everybody told us it was fine, but we just didn't trust that it was good. So I took that responsibility to go and try to find out what to do about the phone. So my first awareness, everybody's kind of aware that this is probably not a good thing, the phone, on some level, having it next to your head. But my really delving into and my awareness of what was going on with that was at that moment where, I was trying to do everything I could to help my wife's immune system be as strong as possible. So I went online looking for a solution, trying to figure it out, and not knowing the science, not understanding it. I just found a company, and now there's two companies, I'm not going to name names at this point, but that make a phone cover that flaps around the front of the cover of the phone. And the concept is that front cover will block the frequency from getting to your head.
Like this?
Exactly. So there's a couple of companies that do that online. And so we bought those covers feeling like, okay, that's going to block the frequency from getting to our heads in the air. And that should be good. That should certainly help. So my wife used that for 4 or 5 years, and I used it for 6 or 7 years, a couple of years after she passed away. And then I was on a Zoom call where Corey Hillis from EMF Solutions was being interviewed, and he was explaining the science, quoting Dr. Martin Paul's study about how when EMFs are present, it dysregulates the calcium channels in the cells of our bodies. And so And then he showed kind of the missing link. So all the big science had been done, but there was a missing piece. And the piece was that when frequencies are in the air, they're not harmful to us directly. They cause the harm, but it's a domino effect. So the first domino to fall is the frequencies present. The second domino is that frequency gets absorbed into the structure around us, into the hard surfaces. So if you think about an EMF, it's photons, smallest element of light, traveling at the speed of light, carrying energy. And when it hits a material, like say the walls of your house, most of those photons pass on through, but some of them don't. They get caught up in the electrons and then the energy is transferred. That's where the harm is. So here I am watching this interview, and Corey starts talking about that. And about that far into it, I realize what I had done was totally ineffective, because blocking the frequency with your phone cover means some of that frequency is getting absorbed into the cover. I'm holding it in my hand, so it's absorbing into me at that point. And then I've got it in my pocket, or I've got it next to my head. Anyway, any way you look at it, that transfer of the non-native EMF is transferring from the air to what gets covered in the phone, in this particular case, and then it gets into me when I come in contact with it. So at that point, it dysregulates calcium channels in your cells. And we can get into that if you want to, but for my story, I had this moment in May of 2022, 2 years after my wife had passed away, that like just out of ignorance, I didn't know any better. I was doing the best that I could, but I just, it misfired. I was off. So I bought everything that I could within the next month or so. And then 4 months later, Corey was back on another Zoom call, and I had the opportunity to ask a question. And I had misapplied something to the phone because what comes for the phone was not convenient to me to put on there, because I thought it would break my cover. So I got another item and stuck it under the cover, thinking this is for EMFs, it'll solve the problem. Well, so I asked him the question, and he said, it was nice. They said, no, that's made for personal protection. It's not made for the phone, and it may be causing more chaos than it's resolving. And so it wouldn't be beneficial. So I'd gone 4 months without fixing my phone, maybe even making it worse. And I had this just a moment. This was in September of 22. I just felt like God was telling me this is what I was supposed to do. So I started the process of training to become a certified EMF specialist. And my business partner was my brother-in-law, so my wife's brother. And I was the majority owner, and we had talked about me selling my majority interest to him, probably within 6 months after my wife passed away. I just, while my wife is ill and we're going through this process, I would be taking her to Atlanta to get IV treatment, like vitamin C infusions and doing all that we could do. So it was very beneficial if you own the company, first of all, to do that. And then if your brother-in-law is your business partner, who happens to be the brother to your wife. So it was very understanding, and but I was ready to move on. So after my wife passed away, we started talking about it, and we just didn't, through a series of events, it just didn't happen. I wanted more than he was willing to pay, and he wanted to pay less than I wanted him to pay. So we just kind of sat on it. And then when this happened, miraculously enough, it's pretty amazing. I started doing this training at night, not telling him what I was planning to do, because it wasn't of interest to him. But he started showing interest again and talking about the sale of the company. So we started talking. I was a little bit more conciliatory to the price, and he was a little bit more willing to pay more. So we came to an agreement. And within 3 months, so on November 30th, he wrote me a check. And on December 1st, I became an EMF specialist and started my new journey in December of 2022. And since then, I've helped over 800 families. And I help them all over the world, primarily in North America, and then primarily in the United States. And when I'm not, so what I do on a daily basis, like I was in Atlanta yesterday and did a home test, and when I'm there, I try to do that physically in person. But when I'm not doing that, I'm in a health food store and I have my setup and I get leads from EMF Solutions consistently throughout North America. And I will call people and I can actually do a free home test on the phone by asking the right questions and getting the answers from the person I'm talking to. So it all started with my wife's diagnosis and the realization that the phone was a stress on the body, and then the journey to figure that out. And then that's kind of how I got to where I am. And I love what I'm doing. I have passion for what I'm doing, especially when I work with people that are very sensitive. I've got a lady that I was talking to over the last week, and she literally sent me a text saying, if you hadn't sent these things to me, I know that I would have been homeless because I couldn't stay where I am. And that's an extreme, but I do get, maybe 5% of what I do. I've worked with people that are that sensitive. Most people don't even feel it. I don't feel it. So when I talk to people and I hand people a better Z's like I handed to you, I ask, do you feel this? And most people that are sensitive, or most people are not sensitive. So 75% of people, just handing them one thing and asking them, they don't feel it like me. But when you fix a whole house or their lifestyle, the testimonials go up from just 1 in 4 or 5 to 1 out of 2 feel it, because the more you do, the more likely it is that you're going to feel it or have change in symptoms. So anyway, I think I gave you more than you asked for.
No, and this is great because, we could take this conversation a million different directions, but what I wanted to say about this is a couple things. First of all, there are natural EMFs, right? Like the sun, like there are things like our bodies are meant to withstand EMFs. Mm-hmm. So the problem is when we get these non-native EMFs.
Right.
You'll see it as NNEMF. Those are the non-native ones.
So if there's non-native, then there's obviously native.
Right. So this isn't a conversation about EMFs per se. It is the inundation of all the technologies that are sending signals, right, through the air. Mm-hmm. And just quickly, like Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, right? Like what else?
Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, and then the one that most people don't realize is spinning electric motors. Now, they don't go out as far. So Wi-Fi, if you're on your laptop and you pull it up and you're in a strange place, or maybe your internet went down or for whatever reason, you pull up to try to find a Wi-Fi. If, where I live, I might get 7 or 8 other people's Wi-Fi network on my computer. Where a friend of mine lives, she lives in a condo, she gets 40 or 50 because they're just everywhere around her. You're being affected by everybody's frequency that you can see in your Wi-Fi list. The closer they are to you, the more of a harm it is to you. But anything it all adds to the soup. And we're just in a soup of it now. 5 years ago, 10 years ago, the farther back you go, the more true this is. If you turned your Wi-Fi off at night and you kept your phone in the other room and you did those basic things, which I highly recommend, those are always good to do, then you could feel pretty good about it because you've taken care of what's in your house. But the problem is now there's so much cell towers. I have, I think, 96 cell towers within a 3-mile radius of me. And when I first checked that, and anybody can check that by going to antennasearch.com in the United States, and it will show you where the cell towers are. The friend that's in the condo in Florida, she has 53 cell towers within a mile of her house. I only have about 4 within a mile. So I really look at what's within a mile. So it's the soup of all the non-native frequencies, or what I call man-made chaotic frequencies. Like you said, Oksana, there's 2 basic kinds of frequencies. The way I look at it as a believer is, what did God create and what did man create?
Yes.
So the created frequency by God in nature is the sun. That's the basic, that's the main source. And then the sun has been shining on the earth for millennia. So the earth's been absorbing that frequency, that good frequency. And and then our bodies, our heart generates a frequency. It's like 10,000 times stronger than the frequency generated by our brain. All of this is electricity. What's the difference between the sun and a Wi-Fi router in terms of the frequency? One is polarized and one is non-polarized. One is clean and consistent and rhythmic and beautiful. And the other one is chaotic, spiky. It looks like an EKG. A natural one looks, just natural waves. Man-made, chaotic, non-native frequencies, very, very chaotic. It looks like an EKG. And it's the chaos that kills us, or that's extreme. It's the chaos that harms us. And all our products do is take the chaos out of the frequency. So we don't eliminate the frequency. We don't block it or shield it. I think that's really a mistake to try to get into that world of blocking and shielding. Well, first of all, if you block and shield the frequency, effectively, you have no technology. I mean, you're not going to be able to use your phone or your laptop on Wi-Fi because it's blocked or it's shielded. If you take the measure of painting, some people will paint their walls of their house with an EMF protective paint. That's concerning because if an EMF gets in your house, now you can't stop it and it's bouncing off the walls like you're inside the microwave. So I don't recommend that. So anyway, that gives an idea of the created from God or from nature frequencies versus the man-made frequencies. It's the chaos. So as an EMF specialist, what I do is look at an environment, ask the person questions, or if I'm physically in their place, I'll use my meters and walk through their house. And the meters are just a tool just to show the frequencies are in the air. And figure out how thick is your soup of EMFs, non-native EMFs. And when we figure out how much you're dealing with, the more toys and bells and whistles of Wi-Fi and Bluetooth and spinning motors you have, the more we have to do to introduce natural frequencies that we use in our products that all come from the earth. So ours are all natural products. We don't do anything technologically to put a charge in anything, because why would you fix a man-made created problem with a man-made solution? We use natural products to infuse into people's lifestyle that when you raise the natural frequencies to the level that's acceptable with all these non-native frequencies, then all of a sudden you've harmonized it. The chaos is removed enough that it no longer affects the calcium channels in your cells.
And that's a really important distinction that I want to make sure that people understand, especially when you talked about the EMF blocking paint. Right? I've heard a lot of people spend a fortune painting their house with this paint. But the problem is, and it's the same exact problem when people put a Faraday cage over their bed, is our bodies are built to operate on information and communication from the earth and from the sky, right? When we talk about quantum rhythms, we need to see the sunlight in the morning. We need to see sun during the day. We need to see sun at night, right? When the sun goes down, that's information for all these different things to hormone processes and all these things to happen in our body. Now, so is the earth. The earth, your body needs to know where you're at, which part of the universe you're in, what season it's in, right? Getting the electrons, like there's areas that have more electrons versus less electrons, right? The magnetic field kind of changes depending on your location, and your body needs all that information, all that communication in order for it to function optimally. And so when my biggest thing with things like EMF paint and things that a Faraday cage that will actually block those signals is you're actually blocking all the natural EMFs that your body needs for communication as well.
That's true. That's true. Yeah, you can't bury your head. I mean, we have to, it's hard to, it's kind of counterintuitive we're in a society or a culture. It's like, if you have a problem, take a pill. If you have a problem, use this solution. And basically, we're not trying to work against what God has created. We're trying to work with it because we're part of that. Mm-hmm. So we fit into that. That's where we fit. We fit into creation, not man-made creation, but God's creation, or the natural. What is natural? So it makes sense to ride the wave of the natural, since we are from the natural, instead of Yeah, I'm a capitalist. I'm conservative by nature. I'm all in favor of the free market. But I think in our culture, we are too quick to try to find something that we can patent and find something that's a solution that's not natural, so that we can, because you can't really take ownership of what's natural because it belongs to all of us. So anyway, we need to work with nature because we are in nature.
Let me ask you something. So what I have found, and this is just purely my observation, is, and I don't know if you've seen this, and because we started the communication with this device, the cell phone, is I'm seeing so many people that have hand twitches now. And I never noticed that before, but now I'm aware of it. And I think it's because we're spending so much time on our cell phones. And so my question to you is, well, first, let's go down this question path, is what are the symptoms that you have seen when someone is being, either sensitive or overwhelmed?
So it's a long list, but the most popular, most prominent are sleep, not sleeping well, fatigue, exhaustion. It can be anything from tinnitus, where you're hearing this sound in your head, to it can be rashes. It can be, it runs the gamut. There's headaches, pressure behind the eyes, reproductive issues, not being able to get pregnant, heart issues because the rhythm of the heart is we're electrical beings, and this is all about electricity, cancer, immune system imbalances, concentration issues, blood-brain barrier, so people get brain fog, sexual performance issues. So there's so many things. Our products don't treat or cure anything. What we do is we take these natural frequencies and put them in place to offset or take the chaos, bring the chaos to order from the man-made frequencies. And what happens is, when you don't have the remediation, when you haven't taken care of this stuff, it affects the calcium channels in the cells. So what happens is, the first thing is the frequency in the air. The second thing is that frequency gets absorbed in structure. Then next, we either sit on structure, we sleep on structure, we stand on structure, we lean against structure. I'm just talking about hard things around us that the frequencies can pass through. Then our body takes on that frequency. Now it's dysregulating the calcium channels in our cells, the voltage-gated calcium channels. And how does it do that? I'll try to make this really brief. The calcium channels in each cell, all 30 trillion plus cells in our body, all have calcium channels in them, and they all operate on the same frequency. So if you take the cell, this is a little example. So this is a cell, an example of a cell, and this little arrow is a channel. It's a doorway in and out of the cell. And now there's multiple channels on each cell, but there's certain ones dedicated just to calcium. And it operates on one frequency, whether it's on the skin, whether it's in your heart, whether it's in your toe, wherever it is, your brain, it's the same frequency. And that frequency that determines you need more calcium in the cell or out is engaged when your cell's out of homeostasis. So it's just operating on this frequency. Then you bring in the man-made frequency that's absorbed into your body, and it's very chaotic. So my hand that's doing the wiggling with the fingers is representing the chaos. And the frequency of the EMF is so close to the frequency of the calcium channel that the chaotic nature of it is confusing the calcium channel. So it tends to either crack the door into your cell open or in or out. And if it cracks it in, then it's causing way too much calcium to go into the cell. If it leaves it open to go out, this happens in breast cells, which got my attention, then way too much calcium is depleted from the cell. So what does that mean? That means the body, the way we've been designed, is the body heals itself. So the immune system, or energetically, I'm not a doctor, I don't play one on TV, but my understanding is the immune system sends energy to the cells to get the calcium right, because it's out of homeostasis. In the attempt to bring it back to homeostasis and close the door behind it so it can keep homeostasis, all that energy is being used up in our system to deal with getting the calcium channels right. When you remediate and you calm down the chaos, so instead of it being like this, maybe it's like this, and it's not reaching over and interfering anymore. Now the body doesn't have to deal with it. It's not sending energy to the cells to get that right. And when it doesn't have to send that energy, now you got this abundance of energy that has always been there. It's just being sidetracked by the EMFs, and it can go to work on the low-hanging fruit of whatever your health is. So in my wife's case, the low-hanging fruit of her health was her breast cells. So that's where it affected her. For a man, it can be prostate, or for some people, it can be digestion. They have gut issues, or it can be a blood-brain barrier issue. So once you've dealt with the EMF and made it not chaotic anymore, now the body can focus its energy in those areas. And in most cases, when they use our product, if they feel anything, they feel better. They feel less anxiety. They feel calm. In some cases, if somebody's had Lyme disease or fibromyalgia, or maybe they've had treatments of some sort in a health journey, and they're compromised, their immune system's compromised, they're almost guaranteed to have a Herxheimer response with our product and have a detox. And that can last a couple hours, or that can last a couple of months. It's very unusual, but for it to last longer than maybe a half a day or a day. But they
happen, right? Like a natural response, like your body is
because your body's doing its job, and the toxins start coming out, and your body responds to, yuck, this doesn't feel good, because those toxins have been stored in muscles or joints or fat cells. And now that the immune system's operating at a higher level, all of a sudden they're starting to come out of the body. And when they come out of hiding, because your body's sealed them off to protect you, when they start coming out of hiding to come out of your body, before they get out, you don't feel so good.
So let's just take a very practical approach to this. And I know you have some great products, which I'll give you an opportunity to talk about, but let's just say, right, like, so in the quantum realm, like a lot of the things that we try to teach is like, these things are really affordable, or very like not costly, or even free. And so from a practical standpoint, if someone didn't have an opportunity right now to make an investment in some of your products, what are the low hanging fruit things that they could do right now in their home for little to no cost?
Yeah. So the first thing you can do, if you have an Apple Watch, and I'm not against Apple, I'm not against any particular company or technology, but if you have a smartwatch, we'll just say that, I wouldn't wear it. So that is counterproductive to what we're doing. This looks like a watch, but it's not. It's our armband, and it's got a chip in it. And I could take the chip out of it and put it in my pocket. We just put it on this armband. So the first thing you could do is don't make it worse. So start with your body and then go out from your body, because distance is your friend or your enemy if it's too close. So remove any watches that may be smart. If they have Bluetooth or Wi-Fi going on with them, that's on your body. That's like mainlining EMF, non-native EMFs into your system. The other thing, and I can't do anything with this, is wireless earbuds. So the right earbud is talking to the left earbud, and the left earbud's talking to the right earbud, and the shortest route between those two places is your brain. So if you fix your phone by putting a chip on your phone, so to deal with the wireless earbuds, then the phone is safe, and then you can put an adapter in the bottom of your phone and plug in wired headphones. And if they're wired, that's fine, as long as the phone's remediated. There are some that have like air tubes for a foot before you get to your head, and that's good. If you fix the phone, either one is good. turn the Wi-Fi router off at night. That's a good policy. If you have a wireless printer, so wireless printers, newer smart TVs, say built in the last 2 or 3 years that you've bought, they and Wi-Fi routers, TVs and printers specifically, whether you have them on or off, in most cases, the beacon is still going out, saying, I'm here, I want you to use me, use me. So even if you've turned it off, it's a problem. If you don't print very often, I would unplug the printer. So these are things you can do without spending a dime.
Or things too, like your Sonos system or anything that uses like Wi-Fi, Bluetooth to connect.
Right. So without spending money, the only way to deal with those is to unplug them so they're not working. Yeah. However, we love technology. I love technology, and we work with the technology. So remediation is, for like a Sonos speaker, is $40. For $40, you can fix a speaker and it won't be a problem. For $40, you can fix a Wi-Fi router that's from coaxial connection. If you have fiber optic, you need a little bit more. And if you have something like Starlink, that's very, very robust, the harm that it can give, but we can fix that, but it costs more. So,
and I want you to talk about that, because this was one of the things that, airplanes are now going to have Starlink on them. Yes. And that's terrifying for me to think about, that you're going to be in a metal plane several miles into the air with a Starlink attached to it. Yes. It scares the shit out of me.
And let me explain why that's really problematic. That's really problematic because metal. So I talked about frequencies in the air passing through material or structure and then continuing. The harder the material, the less photons make it through. So they get caught in the electrons because they're so densely full of electrons. People think of metal as protective. I want to be in a metal building because then I'm in like my own Faraday. But in actuality, it makes it worse. And the reason it makes it worse is because that metal has so many electrons in it. When the photons meet up with the electrons when they're trying to pass through, the electrons capture the photon energy of the EMFs and hold on to it and then amplify it. And then it conducts it. So metal's the worst. The harder the material, the worse it is. The metal being the worst, then like cement or concrete, and then maybe bricks, wood's down the list, and then, sheetrock and paper. And so the smaller or flimsier it is, the less harmful, the less electrons in it, and the less of that energy it holds on to. So to get back to the airplane. So United Airlines is touting and excited to announce to the world that they've signed an agreement with Starlink, and their first encounters for commuter planes. They're going to, I think, out of Detroit at first, and that was a month or so ago. And by the end of the year, they want to bring it into all their planes. Well, they had a problem at first, and it didn't go as well as they'd hoped. So they're trying to, they had to make some adjustments. I don't know where that is at this point. But the frightening thing about it is the concern. I shouldn't say frightening because we can do something about it. The concerning thing, and most people don't know, is when you take metal, because it holds onto the frequency, and now you've got satellites 350 miles up that have an unbelievable amount of frequency level shooting down to the earth, because a lot of it just absorbs away in the atmosphere as it comes through. So 99% of it goes away in its journey to the earth for somebody that has Starlink at their house. So and that's bad enough. I've been in houses and have to remediate them, and I can do it, but it just takes a lot of extra stuff. It takes about $400 more to remediate the Starlink, which is a huge chunk of the percentage of what it costs to do a house. So you take that reality, you take metal, which is harsh, and you take Starlink, which is harsh, and you marry those two together, and then you take the plane 6 miles up in the air closer to the Starlink satellite, so less of it's evaporated away, it's more potent. And now you got a plane full of 200 people, 300 people, and they're all on their phone getting this frequency. Oh. So it's everywhere. I mean, it's
got chills when you said that.
Yeah. So it's
well, and if you have a metal roof in your house,
Metal. So when I ask people, when I do a home assessment on the phone, I ask if they have a metal roof, because metal roofs, I have to do a little bit more to remediate for. So the home harmonizer, this is the home harmonizer that goes on the smart meter of the house, or the analog meter, whichever one you have. 90% of people have a smart meter. So it goes on the meter, and it will remediate a house up to about 3,000 square feet. Then I ask, so if somebody has a 3,000 square foot house, then so they only need one home harmonizer at that point. If they have cell towers close by, depending on how many and how close, we need a little extra than just the one home harmonizer, because we've got more in the soup to deal with of non-native EMFs. If they have Starlink, that creates another scenario we need to add to that. If they have a metal roof, that creates another element where we need to add for that. If they have oversized power lines going by their house within 300 or 400 yards, that adds more to that. If they have underground power coming down their street, but they have a metal box in their yard, which is called a transformer, if it's within a certain distance of the house, that vibrating and shaking I talked about gets into the ground and gets into the foundation of the house. And so it's shaking and vibrating the house that way. You need extra. So there's several things that I look at that add stress. So those are aspects of it. And you can go to my website and request a free home test, and I'll call you and we'll do a 30-minute conversation, and I can help you with that. And it's free. So I'll let you know what it looks like. You talked about cost a minute ago. If you buy a brand new iPhone, I don't know what they cost. I'm guessing about $1,600, $1,500, something like that. Almost every house I can remediate their entire lifestyle and house for that amount of money. So can I afford it? It's not really, can I afford it? It's where do I put my priority? So if you can if you make the decision to buy the $1,600 cell phone, my perspective is you have the money to protect your household. It's just a matter of where do you put the money. And I'm not going to be harsh about it, but it's just, we have choices. And it's a shame that the people that put these things out there and the government that's supposed to be protecting us is not doing that. But it's up to us. We're all responsible for ourselves, unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you look at it.
And to me, is the way I look at it is I just feel safer, and I feel like I sleep better at night knowing that I'm doing everything that I can in my power. Like, I cannot control the big power lines in my neighborhood. I can't control where they put up the cell phone towers. And we can kind of get into this like, oh, I want to buy 200 acres and go out and move out in the middle of nowhere. But the fact is, like, that's not realistic. There are people that do that. Like, I know people that have done that. But to me, like, that's not the way I want to live either. Like, I want to be in community. And so how do you find the right balance of still living this modern life in community and all the things that do make us happy? And how do we neutralize these things so they're not affecting us in a negative way? And I always tell people this too, when they start in the quantum, like, oh my gosh, I need to go replace all the lights in my house. No, you don't. What you need to do is, like, first of all, let's deal with maybe if you spend a lot of time in your living room as well as your bedroom. Like, let's focus on the priority of like where you spend your time. Like for me in my home office, like I spend most of my time in my office as well as in my bedroom. So those would be the areas, if I could space things out or spread the cost over time. Let's prioritize where we know you're sleeping 8 hours a night.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a huge segment of your life. And not only that, not just the time, but what's going on when you're in your bedroom. You want sleep because that's healing, that's restorative, that's life. I mean, if you can't sleep well, if you struggle to sleep, then your body's not restorative, it's not healing, it's not doing the things that we need to do in the circadian rhythm it throws off our hormone. I mean, it becomes a problem.
Cascade, yeah.
You're making a good point. So when I work with people, I'm very aware, and I work out of a health food store when I'm not out and about doing, what I do. If I don't have an appointment in somebody's home or doing what I'm doing right now, I'm operating out of a health food store. And the socioeconomics of the people that come in there is from wealthy to not. I mean, very humbly poor. And so I have to look at what is the biggest bang for the buck that I can give the person that really can't do it all. Yeah. And if I work with somebody on the phone or in person and I do a whole analysis, I give them everything that I recommend. Then if say everything I recommend $1,600 and they've got a budget of $200, then we work with that. An armband 70, a Better Z's, the little bean bag is 48.
By the way, got flagged on my flight yesterday.
That happens. That happens. You should have seen me. I've been traveling and I had home harmonizers and Better Z's and
no. So I'm going to tell you guys the Better Z's beanbag that Ted provided for me at my retreat. And I do want to get to that conversation next, but I love it when I'm on a plane. This is probably TMI. I stick it in my bra and and as soon as I put that on me, my nerves have been really calm. And so what's interesting is I flew with it several times, half a dozen times, but yesterday for some reason they went in my backpack and pulled it out. And so if you're flying with your Better Z's, what the TSA has told me to do is to actually just take it out of my backpack and lay it by itself in the tray. So that was a learning lesson for me. But other than that, I love that product. And also what I learned from you during my home assessment that you did for me was something I didn't really give much thought to on my list of things to upgrade in my home that I still haven't done, because all these things are a process, is my mattress. And you asked me if I have metal springs in my mattress. And I was like, as soon as you said that, and I was like, okay, yes. And so I think you also recommend this Better Z's beanbag for your bed as well, right?
And that's actually what it was designed for, the Better Z's, the Z's meaning sleep. So that was its original intent, but we found that it has multiple uses and it's $48. And any of our products last beyond your lifetime. I mean, they're not going to go bad in our lifetime because they're all natural. They're from the earth and it just doesn't lose what it has in it naturally. So when I prioritize for people, we look personally, can you take things off? Can you put an armband on or a Better Z's on? And like you said, you put it in your bra. I didn't know that was a thing because I'm a man and I didn't realize that. And I was on the call with other specialists that were ladies, and one of them is very sensitive and she keeps one in one of her bra, above her breast on one side. But when she's in very harsh condition places, she has to add a second one. So she has two. Now, I wouldn't keep them in the plastic bag when you do that because you don't want plastic on your body. But that's another use for it. Once we deal with the personal, so pretty much some personal item on you and something on your phone, because those are usually, wherever you go, the phone's usually with you. So whether you're at home, whether you're at work, whether you're at church, whether you're at a store, whatever. So once we deal with personal, and I'm talking about if we're starting with a very small budget, that's the method that I take. And then from there, we go to the bedroom. And in the house, I would put something on the router first. And then depending on what kind of internet connection you have, what that involves, it could just simply be the $40 chip. It's called a device chip. So this chip goes on the power cord and then it clips on so that it holds the chip and the power cord runs across the chip.
And it harmonizes the cord.
Well, it harmonizes the appliance you've got it attached to where the power is going right into it. You don't want to put it where it plugs into the wall. You want to put it right next to the appliance. And then whatever frequency comes off that appliance, I'm thinking Wi-Fi routers, smart TVs, wireless printers, fans, whatever frequencies generated off of that appliance will be harmonized so that it doesn't have the chaos coming. The frequency comes, but it doesn't come with the chaos. Yeah. So then the bedroom is the next thing and the questions I ask about the bed are, is there any metal in one of these three places? The frame, the box spring, or the mattress. And the mattress could have coils in it, or it could be foam, but you could have a box spring, which by definition has springs in it, or you could have no box spring. You just have slats, but you have a metal frame. If you have 1, 2, or 3 of those, even if you don't have one of those, but if you do have those, I really, really want you to have a better Z's on the bed. If you've got an organic mattress and you've got wooden flat slats or bamboo and it's a wooden frame, then it's much less, but I would then recommend a better Z's under the center of the core of the bed where your body lays. Mm-hmm. If it's got metal on it, you just want to put it just on the edge under the mattress and it'll easily fill all that. So that, and then if there's a ceiling fan that spins, if there's a fan within 8 feet of the bed, I would remediate the fan. We want to make sure
don't use the fans. Huh? Don't use fans in your bedroom because they are electron stealers. So I had to teach my husband, who has slept with a fan his entire life, and it was a really hard couple months until he got used to not using a fan in the bedroom. When I met him, it always really bothered me sleeping with a fan. And now I know that, even in Chinese medicine, the wind, that's an electron stealer as well. So not only is it a non-natural EMF, like right above you as you're sleeping or next to you, if it's a stand fan or whatever, but it's also an electron stealer. So if you sleep with a fan, it's time to reconsider.
Yeah. And what some people do with the fan is simply they want a white noise, and it creates a white noise for them. So there's multiple, some people are really hot.
Yeah.
So, maybe the wife gets cold and the husband gets hot.
Turn the AC down, baby. Turn it down. Ted, I know we need to wrap up soon here. And I do want to talk about your experience at Return to Nature, because you were one of just a handful of small select vendors that I had at the retreat in Franklin, Tennessee in June. You guys, the next retreat dates are set. They're June 11th and 12th in 2016. Same venue. They're in Franklin, Tennessee, but I would love for you to kind of share what you got out of not only just being a vendor at the event and what's happened since, but also like as an attendee as well.
Yeah, I absolutely loved it. I've been to many conferences more as an attendee, and this was unique. This was special because of the setting, because of the people that were there. I would put that ahead of the setting. The setting is beautiful, but the connection with all the people that were kind of on the same page out in the world, kind of feeling like a lot of folks feel like they kind of live on their own in this, or they stay connected through networks, but they're not near these people. It was just an amazing time it just felt right. It felt good. It's just that connection. It's just that networking with like-minded people that get it, and then going deeper with them, like meeting Dr. Stephen Hussey. He is an amazing guy. His insights in the heart and how it operates, and but I could name 10 people that way. Really, really good people. And I felt myself not wanting to miss a session. As a vendor, you want to be at your table, but the way you set it up really well so that the vendors could participate kind of as attendees too, and not miss any opportunities during the session. So I highly recommend it. Not only is it the right subject, is it a beautiful subject, it was so well run. You really thought of all the details and just made it special.
Thank you.
Down to, you made sure we had food there that had no seed oils in it. Good luck finding that anywhere. But you had it catered to the place. That was amazing.
Yeah. And I will tell you guys this. And I think a lot of times what happens when we go into situations where catering and things like that is we say, don't use seed oils. And I did something very different this time. I said, we're allergic to everything except for what's on this list. And I gave them a list that said beef tallow, lard, butter, coconut oil, right? So if you're not cooking, just pure olive oil, right? So I was very specific about, and I got a lot of comments on the food. I had doctors coming up to me saying, I have never ate the food at a conference and still felt amazing afterwards.
No.
And it was because of this, because I didn't say don't use seed oils. I told them this is what you could use, and that's it.
That's amazing. And the other thing you did with the water, I mean, having water there that's just spring water out of glass, and then giving us tools at the table to actually put energy, I'm not sure how you define that, but energizing that water, setting it up to become easy water very easily in our body.
Yeah.
Was really, really good.
And then you said like you've made some changes personally, like cold plunging.
Yeah, I wasn't able to cold plunge at the event because of my duties there. I could have if I'd wanted to, but I didn't. I just wasn't really sure. So when I got home, I mean, my son has been on me to do cold plunges for a period of time. So all of a sudden I come home and I start cold plunging, and multiple times a week. I think it's at least 11 minutes a week or up to 55 minutes or something like that. So I was hitting about 15, 20 minutes a week doing it. Feeling great. Is really, really good. And I also bought some shoes from one of the vendors to make sure that I'm grounded in my shoes. And my assistant, Rhonda, bought some glasses that are blue blocking glasses. So, and I'll buy some glasses for prescription through that same process as next time I see my eye doctor. So like you said, when you realize there are things you can do, you don't have to do it all at once. Like when the light bulb burns out, try to put an incandescent bulb in, and eliminate what you have. Or when your glasses change the glasses to blue blocking if you can do that. So change things as you go. Same thing with the EMF stuff. Do what you can do as you can do it.
Amazing. I love that so much. So where can people find you on social media, your webpage? Where can they find you? And also, before you say that, I'm going to say Ted does an amazing free home assessment. This is something I did with him. He asks you all the questions of what you have going on in your home, and then per your budget makes recommendation on how to harmonize those things. So highly recommend it. It's all remote. It takes about an hour on the phone, maybe less, depends on, how many things you have. Oh, and one other thing I want to mention, Ted, your car now has EMFs. If you have a newer car, you're in a metal car, you now has Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, and all these other things. So we didn't get a chance to talk about that today. Maybe let's do an Instagram Live that's just about your car. Let's do that, Ted. But you guys, these are all things that technology is progressing so quickly, and we're making our lifestyles very comfortable, but we also need to take a look at what it's doing to our physical biology. So highly recommend the home assessment with Ted. It's free and it's very thorough. So where can people find you online?
myemfguy.com. So my email address is ted@myemfguy.com. And I'm on Instagram at Ted McCullough, MCCULLOUGH 333, and just Ted McCullough on Facebook. So right now that's where I am.
Amazing. And I'm just so grateful that you are on the podcast today. Thank you so much. And I end every podcast with the same question, and that is, what does love mean to you?
Well, the biblical definition is what comes to mind. Love is patient, love is kind, love is, and then practically, how do you use that? It's basically, how do you measure whether you love well or not, or whether you have love coming to you? It's all about relationships. I feel like relationships are just the primary thing, and how we treat each other from a Christian perspective. There's two main tenets: love God and love your neighbor. And if you say you love God, you don't really know if you really do, or if you just like the idea of loving God, until you know how well you can love your neighbor. And your neighbor is not just the guy that lives next door to you or the family. It's the person you encounter in the street. It's the person you encounter wherever you go. That we're all neighbors. So really, how do I measure love? You asked, what is love? Love is the biblical definition, and that is tested in how we treat each other. That's my perspective on it.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much. And guys, check out Ted and My EMF Guy.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to the Quantum Lens podcast. I hope this episode brought you insight, inspiration, and a deeper connection to your journey. If you've loved what you heard, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who needs to hear this message. Let's keep this conversation going. And until next time, keep aligning, expanding, and embrace the magic of who you are.